Welcome all as we congregate to the greatest toy line in community, ever growing, ever changing. As we collect and adapt these figures to our own imaginations and embrace the fun, there's much to learn, especially if you're new to Mythics. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of New to Mythics, episode 47 with my friend Wyatt. How are you, Wyatt? Welcome to the show.
Hey Greg, I'm doing good, dude. That's like I know everybody says this, but that's like the chillest intro ever.
I
feel
love
like
that
I gotta
music.
bring some good vibes for this.
And I always say this, only one person has told me they don't like it. One person.
Well, they're categorically wrong, I think. Yeah.
Curtis, do you hear that, Curtis? You are wrong, sir. This
Sorry,
music,
Curtis, yeah.
it just gets me in that, you know.
It's a good vibe. It feels like a breath of fresh air.
I love it. I love it. Lo-fi hip-hop is just, it's just the perfect background music.
Timeless.
Timeless. Yeah. Yes. How are you doing, my friend? We got to chat a little bit.
Good.
But you doing well? Is the week over for you? Do you do 5 a week or 4? You do 4 a week, right?
Yeah, I do 4. So I'm done. I get my Fridays off, which is nice, which was why I texted you and I was like, hey, let's, because if it's not today or the weekend, it usually doesn't happen during the week because it's just too busy.
Yeah, we've been talking about it for a little bit, and and you just sprung it on me today. He's like, let's do it.
Yeah,
like, let's do this. Because a lot of times, like I have like people that like Trevor Williams. Like there's a few guys where I'm like trying to like nail down a set time for them, and I'm like, I'm free. Like any evening, I can make it work, but sometimes I got to be ready. So they're like, okay, like you today, it's like today, let's do it. And I'm like, okay. So I was a little bit late.
I'm glad. Thank you for being flexible about it. I mean, I was also like, if you can't do it, we could do it next weekend. But my girlfriend's going out tonight, and I was like, you know what? I got time. Let's do it. Let's knock it out.
Hey, I appreciate you actually, giving me an hour of your time to do this, man. Thank you so much. I'm grateful.
For sure. And kind of like what we're going to be doing, I think a little bit later too, is I know Necro's dropping soon, and actually probably by the time this episode comes out,
yes,
we'll probably already have it.
Yes, people, it'll be in their little,
it'll be in our grubby mitts.
Yes.
And we were talking over Facebook how this whole thing started was I was like talking about how I've still got Poxus figures to open, and you were like, I do too. So I was like, we got to do it sooner rather than later, and that's going to land, and then we'll be overwhelmed by all that stuff.
We're going to chat for a little bit, and then we're going to do that. And I thought that was a great idea because, like, I think you had mentioned on your show, the Enablers, Mythic Enablers, which is such a fun show. That there was figures you hadn't opened yet, and I'm like, dude, me too. Let's do this, man. So
let's do it.
That was a great idea. That I'm excited about that. So I've got Poxus, you've got Kalazir and Arazak.
And Arazak, we'll see. I'm definitely gonna open Kalazir. We'll see about Arazak, but I'm definitely
I could not find my Arazak. I've got like 6 bins in the garage of Mythics, and it's like, I don't know, 10 degrees outside. So I'm like, I gotta find this quick, man, before stuff starts freezing. So
that's a whole nother discussion we could have too, because I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to organize all my stuff. My Mythics collection it's organized right now, but it's all in boxes, and I'm completely capped on the room. You know what I mean? Like,
and then the waves,
it's organized,
the waves,
but I don't have any more space.
The waves keep coming, and
the waves keep coming. Yeah,
you got to keep buying. You can't. This stuff is too good, and that was
too good.
That was my problem with Poxus. Is Poxus came. I was still a traveler. Like I was telling you, I was a traveler. I was in New York and then Vermont, and I was able to drive to the ZoloCon and then the New Jersey Toy Con. And that's when Poxus had dropped. So I was able to pick up everything, but I didn't really open anything because I'm like living in a 1-bedroom apartment with a lady. And I'm like, this is... Like, this is not going to, there's no point in opening stuff. Plus, I didn't want her to think I'm a nerd. She already knew I was a nerd, but,
now the cat's out of the bag now.
Yeah. She's like, what's all these boxes in your garage, in your closet? I'm like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's cool. But,
that's so funny.
so I didn't open anything. So I've slowly since I've come home, I've slowly opened and I'm curious to find out what your favorite Poxus figure is. I know we're not very timely. Me and you're a little behind.
Yeah, we're a little behind. I know.
On our figure reviews of Poxus Wave, but
yeah, I don't know. Okay, so I am a huge Convocation of Basilia fan.
Me too.
And like the Poxus Wave being announced or like coming out was like huge for me because I guess for you too, right? Because there was just like not a lot of figures in Basilia for a long time. Like there was just like 5.
Yeah.
And so I went to Legions Con the year that they revealed Poxus, which was in 2021. And I had that was when the War of the Aetherblade Kickstarter was going on for the video game.
I had bought one from you. I reached out to you and you sold me one, the female orc one. I remember that.
Yeah, and so
I was
it's so funny how so much stuff is connected to that, you know.
Yeah.
And the pre-order was going on for that, and so I bought like the intern ticket because they were offering. Now it's a lottery, and it's been a lottery before that. But so at the time,
you could buy a ticket to go to intern.
Just the one time you could do it, because every other time since then it's been like, hey, you know, enter if you want, and then we'll pick you if you're lucky. But I was like, you know what, this might be my only opportunity to like know definitively that I'm gonna go.
Yes.
And so I bought it and I planned to go. And like leading up to it, like at the time I was still in college, so I didn't have a lot of money. And I was like, I don't know if I should. I'm not sure if I should go. And my roommate was like, you gotta go. And so I'm so glad I did because that's
thank you, roommate.
Yeah, he's awesome. Mario, he's a good guy. And so that's how I ended up going to New Jersey. And I met like pretty much everybody that I'm friends with now in the community.
An experience, dude.
I met at that show, you know, and doing the intern stuff. So
it's I can't even describe how, if you're a real Mythic fan, you've got to try every year. I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to people that are
broadly,
yes, like you've got to try to go to intern.
It's Mecca, you know.
It's the Mecca. It's like Willy Wonka. It's like you got the golden ticket. And when Jeremy's standing at the door holding it open for you and you go in and you're just like, oh, and it's just like, first off, it's like, okay, it's smaller here than I thought it was going to be. But
yeah,
it's just so chock full of awesomeness.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing what they're able to put out in like a fairly small studio. Like,
yes,
it's an impressive studio, but I think you assume that it's like way bigger than it is, and it's really not.
Yeah, it's and I think for the new people, they don't realize how few people are in the studio. Like I remember I asked, I had met Diego, the shipping guy for their customer service guy. I had met him at PowerCon when I was, you know, a fan, or when I was an early fan. And I didn't realize how many people, like, I didn't really know, you know, like everything about, you know, and like, dude, how many is there of you guys? I go, you know, I have no idea. And he's like, not very many. He's like, maybe 12, maybe 10 of us, you know, full time or something. I was just like, that blows me away that like this toy line and what they come up with, and like these waves of amazing quality that go out all over the world. And there's fans, you know, all over the world, you know, that they can do it with so few people. Is just,
I don't know how Chris and George and, you know, CV and Eric Treadaway and Sherry, Cameron, all those guys, every single one of them, you know, Bill, they're all Diego, they're all working so hard, it seems like, you know, to get
Cookie,
that stuff
you can't forget Cookie too, man.
Oh, Cookie, you know, Big Greg, I mean,
all stars. They're all stars.
They're all stars. They're incredible.
Yeah,
I don't know. It was pretty cool. It was life-changing to go to the studio, you know. So it actually was life-changing, you know, because I met a lot of cool people and did the that's kind of how the podcast started, right? But then I met a buddy of mine, Rodney, who's in the groups a little bit. He's kind of like he's if you've been in the groups for a while, you probably have heard of Rodney or know Rodney. He's a little bit quieter these days.
I remember you guys talking about him on one of your episodes.
Yeah.
Like, I think you had mentioned him, and I think I've seen him once or twice.
Yes, we call him the Rod Father because he collects like a lot of Mythic stuff. And these days, I think he's mostly just doing like the test shots. And I'm pretty sure he's either got a complete test shot collection or he's like really close to a full complete test shot
You have
collection.
to either start at the beginning or be very rich to be able to do that.
Yeah, and fortunately, I think he started like in the middle. So like there was enough, and for a time, like people didn't really care about test shots. Like when I started buying test shots, they were like $100. You know what I mean? Like they were not. Yeah, they weren't that much money. Like my first one was a Balam test shot that I got for $85. Like it was like no money at all. You know? Yeah, I still have it. Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't have a huge test shot collection. I guess by some respects it probably is. It's like I got like a dozen figures.
Okay, no, that is good. I was counting. I think I've got 3. I've got about 5.
Yeah,
I
try to pick the ones that are like really heavy hitters. Yeah, that really means something. You know, yeah.
That's what
I met Rodney at Legion's Con and found out that like he lived in the same town as I did, and so we've hung out a couple times since then. And then actually, my current job, I work with Rodney now, which is so crazy. So years later, it came like full circle.
That's some kismet right there, man.
Yeah, right.
So the world is huge, but sometimes it's not really. You know what I mean?
No, it was really weird meeting him in New Jersey of all places. You know,
right?
Yeah.
So, what was the difference between this intern and the first one that you went to? Was it kind of the same, kind of going from station to station?
Well, so like we were really fortunate. Like we do the podcast, and we've just barely done it a year now. And they oh, thank you. Yeah. I definitely by the time this is aired, it'll have been a year. I think we started at the end of February or middle of February. So we got invited to go, which was really nice, and and we got invited, and it was kind of like, you know, you'll be able to participate, but like make sure the interns who actually won the event and like, you know, are their first time, you know, make sure that they get the full experience and like don't make it about you, you know. And so it was cool.
I did not hear that.
There was a few groups that got to go because they got invited to go. Like we got invited, the Your Allegiance guys got invited. I think Bill from Dorclair got invited, and a few other people got invited to go, which was cool. And we're super grateful for that. So there was actually a bigger group of people this year than the year that we went, you know. And another thing too was the office seems like a lot more organized. Like those guys definitely have their stuff together. Yeah. But I remember going the first time and thinking to myself, like, wow, this is such a small office. And I feel like as a result of all the success they've been experiencing, they've had to like get a little bit more streamlined, be a little bit more I don't know, elegant in the way they handle stuff. Yeah. And so it's still like you can still walk by Chris's desk and it's still crazy, you know, but like the lobby's a little bit more together and like their displays areas look really, really cool. And it still has its own charm. Like, absolutely. I mean, they're like connected to a prop studio. So like, it's got a unique kind of vibe to it that was still there the first time. But definitely, I think they've really got the process down of doing intern stuff. So it was cool.
Yeah, you know? It's an amazing glimpse. But what's crazy is that they have it right before Legion's Con, which, you know, for us is great, but for them, it's like, geez, you know, it's like,
yeah, what a week that must be, huh?
Yeah, you're letting us into your house.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the next day it kicks off basically G-Con and then Legion's Con. So it's like, you guys, man, I can't even fathom. Like
they're putting in the hours for sure.
Yeah. But like you were talking about like their organization and that made me think when you said that of Bill Dorclair, Bill William Janowski was he had posted, I have it, but I don't know where it is, but it's basically he posted a speculation of what's going to happen this year, you know, like timeline. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like
I watched that video. Yep.
March is, you know,
it's a good video.
The dragon and maybe the skeleton pack, and then, you know, April is this and May is this, and it's like that gives you an idea like of, if you look at it from their perspective, production wise, that they have to have all this stuff lined up like last year, you know, in the production, you know, they have to make sure that everything gets made and is ready by the time that they're, you know what I mean? So it's like,
yeah, it takes like years of preparation to get to where they're at, like
besides
right
like,
now.
the big waves, like Rising Sun or Necronominus or Poxus. It's like these huge giant waves, but then there's also these little, like Figure Obscura and cosmic stuff and
cosmic head packs
and these little surprises. Like the head packs that they dropped the other day. It's like it would boggle my mind, like trying to stay on top of that. Like
and they're doing that right now, and then they're also doing all of the preparation for 26 and 27 probably too. Like I talked to Lord Vatiris, Joe Vatiri, who helps Jeremy run.
I need him on my show.
Yeah, he's awesome, and he was telling me it was at Intern. He was sitting with me and Noah Pratt, who does Mythic Enablers with me, also the podcast.
My man.
And Noah's awesome. And he was telling us that he's like, we are finalizing right now what we're going to do for 2025. Like it's like about to be locked in.
Yeah.
And that was at the 2024, before the 2024 show. And he's like, and we're already thinking about 26. So, they're already like, they're super organized. They're super on top of it.
Now, I had mentioned to Jim, or was talking to him, and he had mentioned to me actually about the venue, and he's starting to think that maybe it's too small. Like maybe in the future they might go to something bigger, but I'm like, I can't imagine. But as much as they're growing,
I love. Okay, so I this is my first time at this venue. Also, I know they've been at this venue for a couple years, but I hadn't been to a Legions Con since 21. I missed 22 and 23, and it was like something would always come up at the last minute that kept me from going, and it was really frustrating. And so this year I was like, I'm going. Made sure to go. And everybody told me like, say that. Oh yeah, and I'm on the West Coast, so it's like it's a lot of travel. And somebody mentioned that like, oh, you're going to be blown away by the size of it, and I was. It is a lot bigger. And I think what I was also blown away by is like how big it is in the size of the hotel that we're in. Like,
yes,
the hotel is super cool, and it's got a very good like community vibe because you've got like this. You've got the lobby hangouts. I love the pub. The pub food is so good.
Oh man, that's my favorite. I love it.
But you've got the overflow of like everybody. Now there's booths out in the hallways and stuff like that, and in adjoining rooms. And I like the idea of keeping it small and like intimate, and like it's cool to have it in a like right in the hotel. That was something that we didn't have when I was there the first time I went in 21. That was at like it was where they hold ToyCon New Jersey in some kind of community center. So you would have to carry all your stuff all day. You couldn't just go back to your room. But I see all the small independent creators that are there, like Spiro Toys is there, and
Brutal Realms,
Brutal Realm, Armies of Ashmore, the D13. I know that's Chris's thing, but like you've got all these indie toy companies there, and like in my head, what I think would be cool is like for Legions Con to kind of become like obviously super Legions focused and customizers and 3D parts and stuff like that. But to keep embracing those like independent toy creators, and it could kind of almost be like its own independent action figure con, which it kind of already is.
Yeah.
But I mean, if they get big, I mean, they are big enough that they probably could move. I think they're making a choice to like stay there right now.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's a good point. I love that they help or bolster up those smaller independent, because if they wanted, they could just have more booths of like, Matt Steins and Wolf Kings and Curtis's, and you know what I mean? Like I'm sure he had to turn away some tables. Like they could just
it's full.
No, right, we're just gonna sell.
I know it's like if you want to get a booth, it's hard to get one right now. Yeah.
So that's really cool on them that they're just so gracious that they don't mind. I mean, I'm sure that they pick and choose the studios that they want there with them, but I mean, it's just such a cool thing about them that they don't have that that type of mentality. They're just amazing people. So it had to be surreal. So I'm thinking about when you went to, so you've been to 2 Legions cons, right?
Yeah, I've been to 2. I attended the virtual Legions Con in 2020, but that doesn't count.
So 2021, so coming to 2024, it had to be different because you guys have already had quite a few episodes under your belt. And so,
Yeah.
you've been on Jeremy's show, like you guys are visible. So like it had to be kind of surreal that like, I'm sure people were coming up to you guys, like people that like, they act like they know you, kind of like, it's just because you guys are kind of personalities within this community. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, well, I don't know. It's an interesting question. I think like even when I went in 2021, people knew who I was, and I was like, "How do you know who I am?" Like it was
Right.
very flattering, but I think it's because like I have in my profile picture, you can clearly see my face, and I don't think you can like not everybody always has their face showing in their profile pictures, and like especially when I first like my first couple years I was into Mythics, I was posting in the Cabal all the time. I used to sell to people too, like I feel like I enabled Timothy Fung, who now runs amazing sales all the time. But I sent him like when he first got involved, he was like he made a post looking for like a Templar, and like it was my first opportunity where I could do a little bit of that Cabal kindness, and I really wanted to help somebody out. And so I was like, hey, I'll sell you a Templar for like retail, and that was like back when it was like really expensive.
Yeah.
And it's been cool to see his trajectory.
Oh man,
and he lives in California also, so I've gotten to
does
hang
he?
out with
I
him a
didn't know
couple
that.
times.
I'm
Yeah,
like,
he
does
lives in
he
North
have a
Cal.
mythic tree or what? Does he?
He has a lot of mythics, and
Man.
and I've hung out with him a couple times, and like I feel like he's the new young guy in the group who does the buying and selling. And back in like 21 and 22, I was kind of like doing a similar thing where because I was a college student and these are kind of expensive toys, I would like buy lots of figures. I would keep a handful of the ones that I really wanted, and then I would sell the other ones, and then like try to break even or get it to a point where like the figures that I did end up buying, were like negligible, right? And that's actually how I met Michael Xavier through that. I met him through doing some sales, and obviously I met you. I sold you the Aetherblade figure.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So
That
I
was
think I
like
had some visibility from those sales, and then like going to Legions Con 21, I met everybody. Like I met Nate Strong and Trevor and Bill and like all these people. And I was really bummed every year that I couldn't go because like to me, like you guys are all my friends, you know what I mean? And so like it's like the one year we all get to hang out.
Right.
And then coming back in 24, it was cool because then like we had a podcast that people could listen to. And so then I think maybe we were a little bit more on people's radar. So yeah, people were coming up and like talking to me, but it was a lot of like old friends and like or new friends, like people that I had talked to in the years since 21, who would come up and introduce themselves. And like I'm always so happy like that not only that anybody listens to the show, but that like anybody would want to come and just like talk to us or me. Like it's so nice. So it was fun. It was really
I agree. I totally agree. It's just fun, just it's like you cannot talk to someone for basically the whole year almost.
Yeah.
But like when you see them again, it's like you just start, it's like it's like, hey, how you been? What you been up to? And it's like it's
so easy.
It's so easy. It's so easy. And everyone,
you were like one of the first people I met, I think, when I walked in the lobby. Were you down there that night? Yeah. And like funny. That was crazy.
Everyone that we know that comes in the door, hey! They did that to me when I was like, they're like, sure. I'm like, hey. I'm like, that's a welcome right there. It just makes you feel good that
awesome.
that we're all friends and there's not really any drama per se, and we all kind of just, we're all here for this one love, and we're just happy. We've all achieved the chance to all come together and just enjoy each other's company and these toys and the studio and just revel in what they want to show us and just see all our buddies. It's just a magic time.
And it's like it fosters, we talked about like different groups coming and setting up booths and stuff like that, and that's totally true. But it also fosters like people wanting to like make external content, like do YouTube shows and like do podcasts or whatever, like and there's room for all of it. You and I were talking before the show about how you're like, I can't do live shows because it's just like there's so many other shows going on at the same time. And we had the same problem like a year ago where we were like, well, if we did this podcast, like fortunately there really aren't a lot of audio only podcasts. It's kind of like us and Eurolegions, and maybe there's a couple others out there, but we just had to go, you know what, it's gonna have to be Mondays. You know what I mean? Like that's just when it has to come out. And that's such a cool problem to have,
Right.
because it just means that everybody's making stuff. And like that's so fun to be a part of, is the way it fosters, creativity.
Yes, I totally agree. Plus it's exciting to release something, it's like,
oh yeah,
one day awesome. I'm dropping in, we're dropping a new episode and everyone's like, oh, all right, I can't wait. And I love the audio. At first I was kind of bummed because I like to see you guys.
Yeah.
But, and I don't know what it is. I mean, it's just guys talking. So I mean, like, we're not juggling, we're not like entertaining, we're not doing anything like, I mean, yeah, you're handsome, Joe's handsome, but it's like, it's like, but when you did audio, I was like, oh, it kind of bums me out. But it's so convenient. Like Jeremy said, he can listen in his car. Like I'm at work, I can't watch you guys. I can't be like, oh dang, I can't do that. So I can put in the earbud and listen to you guys, and it's like, it's so much more convenient. I just wish I could see what you guys are, right then. You know what I mean? Because like you're like, oh yeah, like Noah made the trophy, and I'm like, I want to see it.
I know. That's the tough part.
Yeah. I love that you guys will release the pictures, but like it's almost without context. So I'm like, what is this little? What is this thing? I don't know what this trophy. What is that? And then I watched the episode, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's.
I could be like totally like wrong about this, but there used to be, back when I first started listening to podcasts like 10 years ago or something like that. In the old like podcast app, they used to be able to put images. Like images could come along as the episode went on, and like you could like embed the pictures. So like sometimes I'd be listening to podcasts and I could like open it up and see like, oh, they're talking about the trophy or something, and then the trophy would be there. I don't know what happened to that, because none of my podcasts do that anymore, and I haven't seen that in such a long time. But yes, I think we had to figure out, like, we were like, okay, we're going to do this thing. And like, we were, the reason why we did the Mythic Enablers podcast was because we had already had a group chat called the Mythic Enablers. And we had been talking since LegionsCon. That was like where we all met. And we were like, we should just do a podcast. Like we talk about the same stuff that like, that we entertain ourselves. We're like, so if we did a podcast, maybe nobody would listen. But then the other element of it is kind of like, we don't really see each other unless it's LegionsCon. And so if we make this thing where we have to show up every couple weeks, then we have to talk, we have to like make the time to talk to each other.
Right.
And it's like, as you get older too, it's like, everybody's so busy. When you're an adult, everybody's so busy. It's so hard to see your friends,
Yes.
So like now we have this excuse to like hang out every other Sunday and chit chat for a couple hours, And I think that's what's translated that people like about the show is like Jeremy said it when the show first launched, but like it is just like a group of guys just talking about, toys. Like it could be at the pub, during LegionsCon, right? It might be a conversation over here or there. And that's kind of like the vibe we try to keep. So yeah.
Now about the show, I got to ask, Noah and Eric seem like the most quiet. Are they like that in you guys' group chat? Or
no.
I didn't think so.
You've met Noah. Like
I've known him probably longer than anyone else in the community. We were fans of Mezco back when, I think it was Mez Coalition, and we were fans back then, like in like 2016 or 17 or something. We knew each other.
In collector years, that's way back.
Yeah, way back.
Yeah.
But and I'm like, he's not like that, like, but
no, he's a pretty outspoken dude. He says some funny stuff. Like
he's very funny.
I don't know what it is. I think that they are both the most I don't want to say cautious, but like I think there's an element when you're recording something that's like, oh, this is going to be permanent record kind of, right?
Right.
They're also both like very kind people.
Yes.
Like and I think when you're doing audio, and especially like with you and me right now, it's difficult sometimes. Like I don't want to over talk over you. You don't want to talk over me. We have 5 people on our show, dude, and one of them is Joe Russo. So it's like, how do you not talk over somebody else or interrupt somebody else? And so I think they're the two guys who like they kind of like try to be the most polite about it. And I've encouraged them, like, hey, people want to hear from you,
Yes,
because when Eric talks, Eric says the funniest shit. He lives an interesting life. He lives on a farm, so he's got crazy stories. And then Noah also, I'll have to like boost his audio when he says stuff during the show. But Noah will make these little like fast little comments about people or about topics that like I laugh to myself when I'm editing it later. But it's like he does it so quick and so quiet you can't almost
his
hear
little
it.
puns and stuff always make me laugh. Like
he's a goofball.
It's hilarious. But no, I love both of them. I think they're both great guys. I know them fairly well, but I enjoy them and I want them to like be more
more there. Well, I think what's cool too is like that we have one other episode recorded. We just put, I think the one that came out last was 24 and 25 comes out because our podcast is bi-weekly for people listening that don't know. We do every Monday. They come out at
hang on,
like
just
7 a.m.
Okay, sorry about that. Go ahead.
It's okay. We're back.
Yes, back.
I think I was saying that we recorded episode 25 and in episode 24 and 25 I feel like I think I make this joke on the show, but like I think it takes like 20 episodes of whatever you're doing before you kind of start to get it. You know what I mean? Like you kind of have to accept that you're just gonna suck for a while.
Yes.
And I feel like we all are falling into like the groove now. You know what I mean? So I think you will hear from more Eric and Noah on the shows going forward because they do have their own voice and like it is important that they're heard on the
Absolutely. Show. Yeah. And I get that, when you have so many personalities, it's hard to, you don't want to overstep or, but and I find too, because like I've been on shows with multiple people and it's like you want to make a point, but then the people that are talking, they moved on to something else. And you're like,
right.
Okay. I'll just,
okay.
I'll just, so, that could be too. But yeah, I told Noah, I'm like, you and Eric, you guys should have your own YouTube show, like on the side, like how they've done that a few times that I love, where they will talk about something that Noah created or Eric created. And that's always fun too, to see those two.
The last thing we did with that was like we did a show after Legion's Con for Eric's customs that he had made for the show, and I don't remember if we also talked about the holiday drop that he did also, but you should check it out if any of your listeners are curious about, like, the podcast is on podcast apps. You can find that. Just look at Mythic Enablers. But then we're also on YouTube. We do have a YouTube channel. And we just and you have to go to the live tab when you go to the channel because we don't really drop videos necessarily, but we will go live like once a month or something like that and do a conversation. And usually Noah leads those too.
Okay. Are you like the technical person? Like, are you the showrunner kind of?
I think like I like to say that Noah's the producer. Like Noah, in his work life too, with Noah's job, he's good at like making sure everything happens. Like if there's scheduling, that's kind of what Noah's doing. You know what I mean? Like Noah was the one that like kind of got the ball rolling on the podcast in terms of like, let's figure out what equipment everybody needs. And like, let's figure out, we're going to use StreamYard to record, and then like, I kind of stepped up to be the host and I don't even like consider myself the host. Like I think we're all hosts, but I guess I like kind of move the conversation along.
Yes, I was just about to say that you're good at that. We're starting it or getting it started or getting it to that point where you guys can talk about what you want to talk about. Because
I'm just gonna like try to guide them and then let them talk. You know what I mean?
And I try to
add what I have to.
It's a fine art.
But then I also do edit the podcast, and that was like kind of, I joke, but it's also kind of serious. I'm like, they can't get rid of me if I have an essential role,
I'm needed.
I'm needed. So it actually was fun. Like, I really encourage anybody, like, if you're passionate about anything, it doesn't even have to be action figures. Like, whatever it is you're passionate about, like, just kind of, if you can, lean into it a little bit because you'll learn stuff and it's fun to learn stuff.
Absolutely.
And I learned how to like edit things, like edit a podcast and audio. And that was also thanks to John Caulfield, who does Euro Legions. He taught me a lot and he spent a lot of time like helping me learn that stuff. And so now I have a weird skill where like I could edit audio if I wanted to, Yeah.
No, that was cool though. How did that come about? Because I remember listening. I was working in Vermont. I remember that like when I started listening to you guys and when the show first started. Yeah. And I was like, their producer, he lives in England. So how is that? How is he helping? I was like, I remember it because I worked overnight. So your brain is thinking all kinds of things overnight. So, you know, you got this guy in Vermont that's like thinking about how you guys do this.
Right.
So how did that come about? And like,
yeah,
how does he do that? And does he still do it?
okay. So basically what happened was like, I didn't go to Legion's Con last year and I had to back out at the last minute and then that sucked. But Joe and Noah and Eric and Mike, who do the show with me, they all went, right? And like Noah was the one to text me first, but I think we both had this simultaneous thought. I like to imagine that we all kind of had the same thought at the same time. We were like, hey, we should just make our like group chat like a show and just do a little podcast. And I think we were inspired in a lot of ways by the Your Allegiance podcast.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at least I was inspired by them. And Noah had, I think, been driving those guys around. So it's John Caulfield, it's Rich and Mal. You know, they're the crew for Your Allegiance, and he had been taking them around New Jersey. And I like to imagine that he was probably just asking questions about like, how do you guys do it? Like, what do you guys do? You know, and I guess John Caulfield, who was like their editor and kind of like their showrunner, he was like, well, I'll show you how to do it. Like, if you guys want to do it, you should totally. Because their origin story is similar too. Like they met at Allegiance Con and then started their own show. And so like it took 3 or 4 months, like from November to February of like November of 23 to February of 24, before we finally recorded an episode. But John edited our first episode, and then he did a really cool thing where he recorded, him and I got in like a YouTube session together, or a StreamYard session, like what we're in right now. And he recorded like showing me how he goes through the whole process of editing an episode. So he spent like an hour and a half with me, giving me basically a one-on-one talk, on how to do like Audacity, which is the program we use. And I learned everything from that, and I took some notes, and then like he would like periodically edit an episode, like if I'm really busy with work, or if if I'm busy and it doesn't seem like we're going to be able to make the timeline in time, or like recently my laptop died and so I didn't have my tools and stuff. And so John's like so fast, he's so good at it now that he could probably do that as like a side profession if he wanted to. So he'll flip out an episode in like a handful of hours. He's really, really good at it. Yeah, and that's kind of the long and short of it. Was basically we met the guys and Noah talked to them, and then John has been like our pitch hitter whenever we need him to like get an episode out. And so I think he's probably done at least 6 episodes, I think, of the show total of the 25 or so that we've done now. Yeah.
You said you used a program called Audacity. Now that's what you use to record yourselves?
No, so we use StreamYard to record. Okay. So we all get in a kind of similar room like this. I think a lot of the shows and streams like use StreamYard. I think that's like a pretty standard one, it seems like. Because I know that like Trevor uses it, and from 1-6 Shooter, and also Bill from Dorclair, I think they use it too. But then what we do is, so we record the audio here. This kind of inside baseball for people who want to know. You can download just the audio file. So you don't have to just download the video. You can just get the audio. And so it creates, depending on how many people are in the room, so for you and me, it'd be just the 2 of us, it creates 2 separate audio files. And then you can download those, put them in this free app called Audacity. And then Audacity is just a pretty good sound editing program. And you can drop them in, and you can see them, and they're like in a timeline. And then you can watch tutorials and stuff like that. But it's honestly not that hard to figure out. It's hard, I think, to get like good at it. But it's pretty easy if you just wanted to like turn it into an audio thing. It's pretty straightforward. So,
and then you can port it onto your
and then you have a podcast hosting platform. So we use another, and this is all stuff that John taught me, but we use another program called it's a free website that is called Acast, ACAST, and then they like post everything for you to all the podcast platforms. Yeah, so that's kind of the process. Is I edit, it goes up. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've been thinking about making it available audio wise, maybe to.
You should. I think this would do well as an audio show. Also.
Yeah, to be more accessible. But I just don't know anyone that has done it. So I was kind of.
I can be the John Caulfield for you, Greg.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'll connect with you.
Yeah.
And you know, it would make it easier, or maybe more accessible to some people to listen. But
and I think that's how this community does stuff though too. Like you can just talk to people about how they shoot that photo or what paints they use or what their
mm,
style is for customizing or like how they edit an audio podcast or
mhm,
whatever. And
right.
like people, I feel like there's not a lot of gatekeeping,
No,
like
I
everybody's
agree.
pretty open if you ask them.
Yes, everyone's generous with their knowledge and experience, and I love that. I'm a
It's
huge
pretty
fan
cool.
of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I wanted to go into before we open our toys real quick.
Yeah.
So what I want to know how you came about to becoming a Mythic fan, but like what did you
Okay.
collect when you were younger? Like what was your
Yeah. I was watching your show, some of the shows before. Obviously, we recorded this one, and I was like, okay,
thank
I
you.
know this
Thank you.
question's coming. So I was
Thank
thinking
you.
about it. Um, it's kind of hard to see, but down there's a little tub. There's a little pink tub. My room's kind of a mess right now. Um, a couple months ago, or like a month or so, I went and I got all of my a lot of my childhood toys.
Mhm.
And like when I was a kid, I think I was mostly into like Transformers and like Pokemon and like I did have I watch a lot of vintage YouTubers who collect stuff, and like I
Mhm.
wasn't around for TMNT back in the 90s and I wasn't around for Kenner Star Wars,
Mhm.
but I love watching that stuff. And one of the lines that a lot of people seem to collect that's sort of later on in that vintage timeline is Primal Rage. And it was through watching some vintage toy tubers that I went, oh wait, I had a Primal Rage toy, so and I think I did play with a Castle Grayskull when I was a kid. Like it was like
Mhm.
a hand me down from an older brother or like an older
Mhm.
brother's friend.
Was
But for me, I started collecting Transformers, Pokemon, and then as I got a little bit older, I got into McFarlane, and I started collecting the Halo action figures that they made.
Oh, those
'Cause-
so
Yeah,
good, dude.
so
Yeah.
I have that tub back there, and it's full of like every from Halo series 1 through not 8 or however many series they did. I collected
Yeah.
them. Um,
That Emil
yeah,
figure was my favorite.
yeah,
Emil,
yeah.
I love that figure.
I have that one. I have a
Yeah.
lot of the Noble Team guys. Did you know that the Four Horsemen, that Sherry from the Four Horsemen painted some of those figures?
No, I did not know
Yeah,
that, but I believe
yeah.
it. She's incredible.
Because the Four Horsemen started working with McFarlane, like before they
Mhm.
were ever the Four Horsemen, like Treadaway and CB and Jim, I
Mhm.
think all worked at McFarlane for Todd McFarlane. And then they spun off and did their own thing. And I think since then they've done some projects with them. I could be wrong, but I had
Mhm.
heard that, yeah, she painted a lot of,
I
and I
did
don't
not
know if
know.
they sculpted, they might have also sculpted some of those figures, but it's kind of weird, dude, how, like we talked about how small it all is,
Yes.
you know? Like,
I
so
mean,
there I was as a kid collecting these, and then here I am
right?
as an adult collecting these. Yeah. Weird.
Actually
Totally weird.
actually getting to know some of the creators or some of the people that worked on that is
That
like
made the toys of my childhood, which is so
yes.
strange.
Yeah, it's
So,
bizarre. I remember Cornboy posted a thing of like most of the stuff that they worked on, and I'm like,
yeah,
there's so many like figures that I had that a lot
so
of us
much.
had that I mean, I didn't know. Like I
Yeah,
had
you
heard,
don't even realize it, right? Yeah.
yes, yeah. It's like you guys are threaded through so many of our childhoods, like
Yeah.
the stuff that they made was just so good, man. But yeah, a lot of people that I talked to mentioned McFarlane but I think that was such a huge, like, I hate to give Todd this much credit, but
They
I
did
mean,
a lot of cool stuff, though. They
did
did
a
a lot of
lot
cool
of
stuff.
cool, like, dude is a visionary, like,
Yeah.
like it came at the perfect time for at our age. I know I'm older, but like in our age, it came at just the right time. Like it kind of totally revitalized, I think, the toy industry. And the Horsemen were there, just making some cool stuff for sure.
I said it on our pod too, but like the Frankenstein figure, it really feels like a classic. Like when I was a little kid going to Toys R Us, and I would walk past the McFarlane like weird horror
Yeah,
characters or the Spawn figures. Like this gave me such a like burst of nostalgia
yeah,
because it kind of has the same vibe. And I know that the Horseman sculpted a lot of those Spawn figures, but
yeah.
like yeah, when you're talking about how he was a visionary, like I'm thinking about it right now. I think he was probably one of the first big people to sort of show that toys can be for adults. You know what I
Yes,
mean? Like
that they can be cool.
that they can be cool and they can be like dark, you know, and gritty.
Yeah,
you know?
he had a lot of like, there was a lot of stuff. Yeah, between them and NECA, like they were doing
NECA too.
A lot of like monsters and you know, horror things.
Blood. Yeah.
A lot of.
I remember I was like scared of some of the McFarlane toys when I was a kid.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, that's kind of creepy, man. But yeah,
kind of creepy. Yeah,
I remember Toys R Us just being so enthralled. Like I couldn't buy a lot of it, but just I was so amazed at this stuff. Like it had jumped. Like, because I remember it was like the Power of the Force line. I think it was Power of the Force, where it was kind of like revitalizing Star Wars for us older fans. And it was still like, you know, still 5 points of articulation. They didn't stand very well. And then like maybe, I don't know how much later, not very much later, comes these McFarlane, you know, Spawn and Redeemer and like all these crazy, like spiky giant capes and machine guns. And I'm like, this is freaking cool, man. Like so different. Yes, they're fragile and they broke. If you looked at them sideways, they would break so easily, but just visually, like on your shelf, just some cool stuff.
Something completely different, you know. Yeah. And I think so, like to fully answer your question, I collected those as a kid. I stopped when I was like probably 13 or so. And that was when I was like, okay, like I don't want to be I think a lot of people say this, like I want to get a girlfriend. I don't want to be a dork.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so I did that whole thing. Like they went into boxes and totes and stuff. And then it was when I was in college, I was like 20, I think. So there was a bit of a gap there, 6 or 7 years, 2021. I was like 21 years old, and I was like, you know what? I can buy those things that I really wanted. Like I could get some of those Halo figures again. Yeah. And so I was like, I have money now. Like I could totally buy those toys that I wanted when I was a kid that I couldn't buy. And so that's what I did. I got into the McFarlane Halo stuff again, and I started buying those. And then pretty quickly I was like, you know what? There's new stuff out that like looks super cool. And so I bought some like Marvel Legends, but what really got me into it was like Mafex and Mezco and Amazing Yamaguchi.
Yeah,
I was collecting like some imports for a while, and then I started to get really into Mezco. And I know you were into Mezco also.
Oh, yeah.
So I had a little Mezco collection. And then eventually, and I would see Mythic Legions, probably the same thing you would too. It's like when you start getting into that sort of higher end collecting sphere of figures, you start to see people talk about it, or you'll see it in a size comparison in a YouTube video. And it was pretty sure it was like Toy Bro and like D Amazing, who like eventually, I think what it was I saw D Amazing post some pictures of like the standard 1.0 orc, like just the basic Legion Builder orc. And there's this one picture that I can see in my mind's eye where I don't even think the Mythic Legion's horses had come out yet, but it was like Urzok on a horse, and then he was being led, or like encircling him were like several other 1.0 Legion Builder orcs. And I was like, okay, that's just too cool. I gotta get one of these. And so I bought Krona, and Krona was my first figure. And I think that's a lot of people's first.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I just talked to someone, and that was their first. I think it was. I think Brendan. It was. There was a couple of guys that I talked to. I think even Emil. That was his. That was his first.
It's a cool figure, man. It's
and that really, kind of. I had thought because you had confirmed you wanted to do this tonight, so I was working at work, and I'm like, what could I ask him? And one question I did want to ask you is how do you collect on the West Coast? It's got to be a challenge to get, now, we've got the pre-order system set up so that you get your stuff. But, starting out, it had to be a little bit more of a challenge. You couldn't just go, down the street and pick up Mythics. Like it was more of a challenge. And it still is kind of on the West Coast because there's not the cons and stuff that those lucky East Coasters have.
Yeah, I don't think like if you're an East Coast person or, East Coast Midwest kind of person, you probably don't even realize it. And I didn't really realize it until I was into this game of collecting. Like the West Coast doesn't really have much, you know what I mean?
No.
Like we have like Frankensons is like the big thing that everybody always talks about. And I've been to Frankensons. I know you've been to Frankensons too.
Yes.
Frankensons is so cool. it's awesome, but California's a big state. And so like I live up on the Central Coast, so that's like 4 or 5 hours away from Frank & Sons. So it's like I can't just go to Frank & Sons and pick stuff up. I never really got anything locally, except occasionally, and it's so strange, but occasionally I would just go onto Facebook Marketplace, like not even like in the groups, and I would just type in Mythic Legions, set my radius to be like really large, and then like a couple times I got lucky. It was like you just have to check periodically.
Yeah.
But a couple times I got lucky, and I met a couple people that were like pretty local who were selling their Mythic Legions, you know, and so that's how I got my first Forest Troll. That's how I got my first Templars, and I think like my 1.0 Skeletons. There was just a guy who like lived in Ventura County, and he was like, I'm selling these things, and I just drove over there and I picked them up, and like at the time it was like for a great price too. Like you can get a Forest Troll now probably for like $100 or $150 or something, and I think that's about what I paid. Like probably paid like 120. And that was like when the Forest Troll was like $300-$400 because they hadn't done the reissues yet. So yeah, I mean, it was tough at first. Like there was always Big Bad Toy Store, and they at the time, like I don't think the Mythic hype wave was still building and it hadn't fully hit yet. So you could still go back and like you could get a lot of old Advent of Decay figures and Soul Spiller figures. But around the time that I started like collecting was like the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. Those things started to go, and like before you knew it, it was gone. It was totally cleaned out again.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
It's like
it was weird.
It's like a collective, like everyone's like, whoa, this stuff is cool. And then like if you don't jump, it's gone.
And I don't know what it is, like because they had been around, but like I wonder, you know, for them, it really is a risk. Like you think about like as a creator, like making something for years that they're probably doing fine in their own right because they kept making it, obviously, right? But then it did hit some kind of critical mass, like 4 or 5 years into the line, that like that brought a bunch of people on board. And I don't know if it was the influencers, like YouTuber people talking about it, or what, but like or the designs themselves. I mean, the quality of the toys is like amazing.
Absolutely.
But yeah, for me, it was just a lot of online buying. I think is like how I would get stuff. Like,
thank God for
very rare did I ever buy something in person.
Yeah, that's kind of a bummer. I know. I don't really. I've got one shop about 2 hours from here, but usually he has what I have already. So I'm excited for Necronominus to hit, and then the later waves that I wasn't able to pre-order everything. Then I can go and visit that shop and do some picking ups. But and also another question I did want to ask you before we get to these toys. I know it's almost been an hour, and I appreciate you. Are you still okay?
Yeah, I'm good. I got time.
Has being an enabler, has that made you, like, not forcing you, but does it make you buy more? You know what I mean? Like it's like, oh, I've got to, you know, like all the boys are picking this up, and like I'm lagging. I need to, you know, get this this figure obscura.
Right.
You know, or you know, is it kind of goading you to
question
get more?
I think that's a good question. Like I'm not a big, like, I know it's kind of weird to think about because we're all collectors, and so like consumerism or consuming is kind of like baked into that whole thing. But I'm not like a big like consumer person. Like I don't, other than Mythic Legions, and I have some Sofubi back there too, like Godzilla Japanese.
I see
Sofubi.
those, man. Those are
those are expensive too. Yeah,
awesome,
that's a whole rabbit hole I shouldn't have gotten into. But like it definitely conflicts with like how some of the things that I believe in, because I'm like, yeah, I don't, you know, you don't need a lot of material stuff, but there's something about that plastic crack, you know.
I can't understand it, dude, but I agree.
And like I know the podcast is called Mythic Enablers, and I almost like you know, we enable each other, and that's true. And I think the name is cheeky and kind of fun. But I also am like a firm believer, like I've gotten myself into holes where I shouldn't have, right? Where it's like, oh, I spent too much on that and I shouldn't have, you know? And so like, I think that's just a process of learning and growing, that like, you know what you can and can't do. So for me, like, I feel like I don't want to say I'm like late stage collecting, because I've still got years ahead of me and there's opportunities to get lots more stuff. But I think I've had now a big character arc where it was like, I'm a newbie, and like you learn really fast. You get a lot of stuff. You realize like, oh, I bought things that I didn't want. You sell stuff, and then you kind of are dealing with what you got left. And then you're like, okay, I got to manage how I go about this better. And I think that's kind of where I'm at right now, where I feel pretty good about it. So even though we do the podcast and like we're also like pretty, I would say, hardcore collectors, I guess, by most standards. Like we're probably going to buy just about everything that comes out, like in some respect or another. With that being said, like I will pass on certain things. Like I don't really collect, and I probably will now, but I don't really collect Cosmic Legions. I have one Cosmic Legion right now. I did get in on one of the pre-order waves for the book for Havaltakar book 2, like the second Cosmic Wave. I picked those up.
I did,
and too. I had them, and I was just like, you know what? I can't display them. I don't have the room, and I'm not even opening them, so I sold them. And then now all I have is a Vorga from the first wave. So I'll probably pick up some more of those, but like I don't really collect Cosmic, and like I feel okay when I need to pass on Figura Obscura as well. And like the way I've kind of been looking at it too is like with the podcast, like I don't feel necessarily like I need to buy everything, almost because I know that there's 4 other guys that all have their own collecting goals and stuff like that too. Yeah. And so probably if I don't get it, Joe might get it, or Mike might get it, or Eric will definitely get it, or Noah might get it. You know what I mean? Like, and so there'll be somebody to talk about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I've got a few friends, my boys, Matt and Eric. They, if I don't get it, they get it, and they will convince us or not. They'll be like, yeah, this, I'm not sure.
Pass. Yeah.
And it may not be Mythic. It could be Mafex. It could be, Savage. It could be, who knows, anything. But, we'll talk about it amongst ourselves. And then that's when I start. And I'm like you. It's like, I don't feel like I'm smarter, but it's like, I see like the whole marketing. I see, like, and I try not to, like, I try to do the matrix dodging of all the, all the marketing ploys and all that stuff. It's like, I don't need that. I don't need to be, manipulated that way. But I don't know what it is about the Mythic line. Like, I've been at their cons and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I don't really want that figure. And all it takes is Big Greg to just like drop it in my hand, and then the next thing I know, I'm carrying it.
You're sold.
Yeah, it's like, and then I'm like, I didn't really want that figure. Why did I buy that for? And then it's cool. So, but I
think
I don't know what
like
it is, dude.
I don't know, like you talking about it just now, like I realized I collected a lot more like at the bigger brand stuff before Mythic Legions came around. Like I was collecting a lot of Marvel, I was collecting like Mezco's, like, Marvel stuff. It was a lot of Marvel stuff was what I was collecting, honestly.
That Punisher.
And I think when I started like picking up Mythic Legions, it was like my first taste of what like independent toy lines are like. And now that is kind of what I'm mostly into. Like I don't own any Marvel Mezco stuff anymore. I only have like Rumble Society stuff, And then like in terms of that got me into Mythics further. And then when I got further into Mythics, I got really into like designer toys. And then that kind of took me down the Sofubi rabbit hole, which that is all designer toys stuff. And so, I think like, I don't know, it starts to make you appreciate the artistry in it a lot more.
Yeah.
Like I think we talk about how cool a figure looks, and like with like it, just broadly, like we as collectors will talk about like, oh, it's got great posability and like it's hand candy, it's fun, it photographs well. But like one of the things I love talking about with toys and action figures and collectibles is like the artistry behind it. And I think that's something that I really love about the studio is like they're artists, first, right? And you can kind of feel it when you get their stuff.
And we can get to know them. Like we can ask them questions, or we can.
They're accessible. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that makes, I think it makes it even more special that you can go up to Eric and ask him like, what was your thought process on, this figure, or what what was your inspiration, or what, and he will answer you earnestly and talk to you about the creative process, or the painters, Cameron or Sherry, or, you know what I mean? It's like, that's so amazing. Like, I think what you're talking about is like us kind of being over the corporate, the corporate toys and the corporate stuff, and playing their game and being on their,
the like hamster wheel.
That's what I was thinking. Treadmill.
Because they know that you'll buy another Spider-Man.
Yes.
They'll know that you'll buy a Punisher, or that you'll buy a Batman, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like,
we don't think about it. We just like, oh,
Yeah.
I gotta, oh, it's got extra points for articulation. I gotta get that. And it's like, wait, stop. Like, do you need that? Does that satisfy something in you? Are you really going to, and I maybe it's an older thing, maybe it's a, collected everything, and now it's like, now you're a little bit more picky about what you collect, and I think these figures, they mean more. You know what I mean? It's like, we know who created it, we know who painted it, we know, the people that boxed this stuff up and sent it to us. We know these people, and we know they're great people, and it's like, it just makes it, for me, it just makes the figures more special.
I think so. I think so. Yeah. Well said, Greg. Well said.
Thank you. With that, let's open some toys, man.
Yeah, let's open some toys. Let's do it. So you're opening which one again? Poxus?
I have Poxus and his loyal steed.
Oh yes, his loyal Phloggius.
Phloggius, which sounds kind of mucusy.
Sounds like something, like caught in your throat.
Yeah, I got the Phloggius. And
Phloggius is going around this year.
Yeah, I had a hot pot, and I got the Phloggius out. And what's that pot thing that maybe it's a Midwest?
The neti pot.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've never used it, but it sounds terrible.
Neither have I. I'm scared of it. I'm truthfully scared of it.
Okay.
And then I'm opening a Calazir. This is the Calazir that I pre-ordered 3 years ago.
I'm excited for you to open it. I love
Me too.
Scale. That figure, and also Tharnog.
Tharnog,
yeah. I was not really down for his heads. I'm looking at him now. I
have him up here.
I did the Will White, and I changed his head. Let me grab it for you.
Yeah, what did you do with it? I don't know if I'm familiar with what
Will White, he does reviews every once in a while. Billy Beige. He put a regular orc head on this body. So I took off the pauldrons and all the necklaces and the fur, and just
simplified it.
Yeah, simplified it. And I'm like,
I like that. That's like the Vorthog helmet, huh?
I just dig it.
That looks really good. Yeah. I had not seen that before.
Just a basic, brute, beefy orc.
Big beefy buck is what we like to call.
But I'm excited for you to open up Calazir and check him out, man. He is an awesome figure, and I'm opening Poxus. First time for both of us.
I just noticed for the first time, I think because when Poxus was shipping, they couldn't ship the all-ins right away because they had to ship the brute scale and the moose or something like that had to come from a different factory, right?
Yes.
And I just realized, I think you can tell that it's from a different factory because I think these ones use the little, they don't use the twisty ties. They use these little rubber band things.
I didn't even notice that, but you're right.
I know. I just noticed that for the first time.
Very astute, young man.
Thank you. Yeah, I was when I first got into Mythics, I was really hoping, I watched a video, I think it was an interview with Pixel Dan and Cornboy. And Cornboy was like, our next big wave that we're going to do, because I think maybe Pixel Dan was reviewing or talking to him about Arethyr. So this was probably in 2019. And CB was like, we're going to do a vampire wave next. And then he's like, and then we're going to do wizards. He's like, but that's probably 3 years away or something. And I remember thinking at the time, oh my God, the wizard wave is going to be 2 or 3 years away. And then it came and the pre-order happened. And then Poxus took a little bit longer than I think we all thought. And that didn't come until the beginning of 24.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I'm excited to finally open this.
Absolutely. It's a fun figure. I love the color. That head sculpt is phenomenal. I think the sword is a little fragile.
Oh, really? Okay, I'll have to be careful.
Yeah. I want to display all the horsemen. I'm excited about having them all. The only one I think I have open is Alithia and her horse. And so now I'll have Poxus and his horse. So I need to get Arethyr opened up too, I think, in his horse.
I truthfully, shameful admittance here, I don't think I've ever opened any of the Four Horsemen's horses, or the 4 horses of the 4 Horsemen.
I haven't either. I opened Aletheia's.
I still have Aletheia's in my box. I have Aethon as well. The only ones I've opened is what's the one, the gray horse? I can't remember his name right now.
Boreas. Yeah, I'm looking at him right now. That horse is beautiful.
That horse is pretty awesome.
Yeah. I'm kind of leery, so it's cold here, so I don't want to do too much. His head sculpt is awesome. He's got like
that beard,
no lips.
Yeah.
He's got like bug legs hanging off of his belt. And I love this burlappy. He's got like a burlap kind of not dress, but kind of like soft good thing. And I always love this the scalped kind of chest thing he's got. Yeah, I love the figure. Like I love the legs and the feet and the chest and the belt. Very cool.
Those I think when Poxus was revealed, like there was a ton of new stuff on him. The only stuff I think that was reused at the time was his lower legs.
Okay.
Like from the waist down, that was reuse at the time.
Yeah, but it kind of looks like a Gold Knight or
like your classic Mythic Legions Knight kind of thing. And when I opened it for the first time, I really liked Poxus, and I do wish, kind of like I think with Arethyr also, I do kind of wish that he had a unique lower half, but I realized at the time they probably weren't I don't want to say confident, but like the line wasn't at where it is now, where like you can get new parts like crazy. Like you're so lucky if you're a new to Mythics collector now.
Yes.
Collecting the line, like there's just so much stuff.
Such a huge library. I love wings.
Yeah, the wings are pretty cool. Those bug wings.
So it looks like he's got 2 bows. One's got wings on the bow, and one's just the bow.
Yes, I have. I brought mine in here before we started recording, and I've got.
How do you have them set up?
The one with the wings on.
Okay, I hear that one's very fragile.
Yeah, I was trying to be really, really careful with that.
And it's kind of nice when you're late to opening things, because you hear about all the pitfalls of this or that, so you can try to avoid it. Yeah,
I think this wave, I would definitely be careful, especially because you're in a cold spot, like you said. This wave definitely had some, like, what was the big one? It was like everybody was complaining about
Thrace.
Yeah, breaking and stuff like that. Yeah. I'm going to try to not make ton of noise opening this.
Okay. Be noisy. It's all right.
There we go.
This is your episode, man. You make all the noise.
I can do whatever I want.
That's right.
It's interesting doing an audio podcast. I feel like I've become more aware of like the do's and don'ts of things that you do.
Think about that. Yeah, I could.
While you're on microphone. Because what happens is, as I'm editing a show, I'll hear like somebody breathing, or like Eric Miller, he lives on a farm, and so occasionally you'll hear chickens in the background.
No, are you serious? For real?
Yeah, for real. And it doesn't really always translate to the show as often. Like I tend to leave it in because I think it's kind of like funny. It's like kind of like audio texture.
It's endearing, personality.
Yeah, it adds a little. It makes it a little unique. But Eric will also fiddle with figures like while we're recording. And he doesn't realize it, but then it's making all these little noises that in an audio only show, it's like people I think are less forgiving in an audio format only.
I get that. Yeah, because it's the only medium that you're experiencing,
you're not seeing people open stuff, So it's all these little things that you got to get used to. Another thing about audio podcasts is because there's no visual, you have to get good at filling airtime. Like you don't want long pauses because people will think their audio player stopped working or something like
Right.
that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And do you find yourself being like descriptive of things, or like right now Joe's looking up this, that?
I'll try to remind the guys, like, if we're talking about something, to describe what it is we're talking about, which becomes difficult when you're doing when you're talking about customs and things like that, because it's like those can be so different looking.
Yeah.
Okay, I got Kalazir freed. I'm trying to get his sword out. Let's see.
Yeah, this is awesome. I love the wings on this guy. His wings are awesome. Look at the soft goods on Kalazir.
Yeah, that is so cool. Working with CGSM was such a great move by them.
Oh, absolutely. I got to give the Horsemen, and I think Joe Vassapolo is big on their choices on colors and color schemes for every figure is it's very important, but they nail it, you know. Like I look at Zindi and I look at Samir, who are my two favorite figures of Poxus, and I'm like, they both have blue cloaks. I'm looking at them right now. They both have blue cloaks. And it's kind of weird. It's like, why would you have both good guys with the same, with not the same color, but like the same blue or a blue
kind of color?
like,
yeah,
that's kind of weird. And then like Zindi is like reddish and bluish and blue and gold, and Smear's kind of just plain. But the colors, for some reason, they just all work, you know, or Kalazir, all the different colors.
Yeah, I think I remember, and it's in the live stream, I'm pretty sure, like if you go back and watch their G-Con that year, but like Sherry was talking about how cool Poxus was for them because they got to experiment with like different colors that they never really got to do like in Legions, because Legions has its vibrancy, but it's also like, if you look at a lot of the waves, it's not like, I think everything after Poxus got a little bit more colorful.
Yes, you know what I mean? Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm glad that they kind of, you know, seized on that. You know, yes, you know, it's nice to have the Silver Knights, you know, and the Gold Knights for Joe Russo and me. I'm a big night guy too.
Are you? Yeah.
Yes, I love the Knights, but it's nice to have some pops of color too, or different or unusual colors. It just kind of livens up your shelf and gives more personality, I think.
I think that's what ultimately got me to get Krona. We were talking about earlier, like our first kind of figures, was Krona looked so different from a lot of the other figures. And like, I don't think I realized fully at the time that it was a Motu tribute, because I didn't grow up with like the 80s Motu. Right. I did have some like 2000X Motu when I was a kid, because that was like, I guess, kind of the Motu I would have watched. But the stark contrast and like how vibrant those colors were, I was like, oh, that looks really, really cool. I was like, if I got that and that was the only Mythic Legions that I got, like, it would just be a cool, you know, standalone toy.
So where did you get your first? Was it Big Bad Toy Store or somewhere else?
I think I actually got it from Empire Toy Shop. I'm pretty sure that's
Milo.
Yeah. Milo's awesome. I for a long time was pretty much getting just everything from Milo. I did a bunch of the early mystery boxes too, and like I got my like Cassia, my Torgan, my Bolthor, Nubnik, and Thump, and Archimedes. Those were all from Empire Toy Shop.
Okay, right on.
Those were like my early figures. Gives you a little sense of like what was out at the time. I think it was like Wasteland and Bjorngar were the two waves that were kind of out then.
Yeah, he was my my Black Series when I
was.
Yeah, he was my guy for Black Series. And I was so into Star Wars Black Series. I was buying like cases.
Were you?
For me and my stepson, yeah, we just loved that line back in the day. So we were just.
Do you still collect Black Series?
I pick and choose. I'm not as hardcore as I used to be, but I appreciate their figures.
Yeah, there's some cool ones. I really like when I was a kid, I remember I think I had most of my Star Wars toys were from like episode 2 and episode 3.
Yeah.
And I really like the Super Battle Droids.
Yes.
And I know they just came out with the Black Series Super Battle Droid, and I was thinking about grabbing one of those.
I saw that. I like the Droidicas.
Yeah, the Droidica looks really cool too.
Yeah.
I have to say mine came out like pretty good, like joint wise.
Yours is good.
Probably. Yeah, like honestly, Arachagor had like some parts that I was like not comfortable moving and had to heat up, and Thrace, I had kind of the same problems with Thrace where it was very stiff.
Yeah, you don't want to push it. You don't want.
Yeah, you don't want to push it. Like right now, I think the only thing I'm probably not going to mess with is these knees are kind of locked in there. But I would say otherwise, like he's actually feels really buttery smooth.
Yeah, I don't know why people push the limits on it. It's like, it's like if you're been around for a while, like if it's not moving too fluidly, don't push it. Heat it up a little bit.
When in doubt, heat it up.
Yeah. His back, I don't know if it's on upside down or if that's the right way.
I think you do have it here. Let me hold up mine. I think you have it the right way because his
because if not, the pauldrons fit.
Yeah, no, you got it the right way.
I forgot about the halo thing. That's right.
This was really cool because I had forgotten how they did this. And I was like, how's this halo going to go on there? Because it's just the effect. Like there's no plug or like hole for it to clip on anything. It just pops into this back piece.
I was wondering. I thought that was kind of strange. I'm like, what is that? That holds his halo thing. Okay.
Yeah. I also still think Poxus is the best horseman that we've gotten so far. Obviously Necronominus isn't in hand yet, and I know a lot of people really love Necronominus, but Poxus just comes with so much cool shit.
Yeah, he does come with a lot of cool stuff.
This effect of like shooting, I don't know, plague locusts or something, is really gnarly.
How does the halo fit on the back of the?
It pops in. See, it's kind of like you got the point up here. And then, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. It kind of just fits. There's a groove back there that it kind of pops into the back of the wing holder thing. Yeah.
Let me take it off first. Maybe that would be easier. I forgot about the halo thing. I don't want to snap it.
Yeah, and then you kind of have to find the groove, but if you do the point side in the middle of that backpack part, it just kind of pops in really nicely. Super cool. Oh. Got Erzak's sword. This wave was so cool too because it came with so many effect pieces.
Yes.
Like Erzak comes with these little spectral, smoky
tendrils of smoke that kind of
little smoke tendril things around. And
I really love the wizard wave. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, this wave just kills. It's so good.
So good. Definitely worth the wait.
These are figures that like if you haven't gotten yet, you should definitely. This is me putting on my enabler hat right now.
Yes.
But the show is new to Mythics, and if you're new to Mythics right now, definitely be picking some stuff up like this. I mean, obviously, if you have to be selective, get the things that you want.
Absolutely.
But figures like Arachagor and Kalazir here, the Jinn, are going to go for, I think, money someday. Poxus as well. If you can get Poxus now with his horse, like we're kind of already seeing it with Alithia. Alithia goes for like a good amount of money now.
Yes. Yeah, I think that had to do with Thrace though too. People were seeing that those two might
are kind of compatible. Yeah.
Yes, color wise. I'm gonna open up my Philogius. Get this guy opened up.
This guy is really, really cool. I really like Kalazir.
His head sculpt. Yeah, Kalazir's head sculpt I love. He's got like the real earrings. He's got like the little like bumps on his forehead, like all the different textures. And by dog's looking at me like, yo, too noisy.
Even his eyebrows like come out of the sculpt and are pointy.
Yes.
And his mustache and his fangs and stuff like that.
Yeah, it is a fantastic figure. Also, I don't know if you know Steph Delator. He's got cool flaming swords, and they go good with Kalazir.
With Kalazir?
Yeah,
Steph was like one of the dudes that I like really left an impression on me when I met him at the first Legions Con that I went to in 21. He's like, Wyatt, dude. And like, I don't think we had ever really had much of like a one-on-one interaction. And he like recognized me, and
such a good
just like, he just like brings you in and makes you feel great. Yes. You know what I
mean? Absolutely. Yeah. He's one of the good ones for sure.
He also made a lot of really cool magic effects for the wizard stuff. Yes. I don't think any of those are in stock right now, but he does periodically put them back up. This website is Detour, right? Detour Customs?
Yep, Detour Customs.
Yeah, go check him out. He's awesome.
So have you, other than Arazak, you opened all the other Poxus?
Yeah, I opened Zendi and Samir and Tharnog and Arakagor, Poxus. I don't have Flogius open. I'm probably not going to open Flogius on here just because, like, I feel like I don't have enough space to work with right now.
I understand. I don't either, but I'm doing it, man.
I will go into Arazak right now.
That being said, like, do you have a favorite?
I think it's really tough. I think Arakagor is like the coolest.
What a wave!
It's a crazy wave, and like I remember sitting there for every reveal at the G-Con. So like they let the interns kind of hang out in the studio the next day when they did it. And now when they do G-Con, it's like almost like a part of Legions Con. Like it's at the hotel and anybody can go and watch it. Back then it was like if you were an intern, you got to be in the in-person audience. But each figure they revealed like was blowing me away. And I think having them in hand, like, I don't know. I think I like Arakagor the most. It's hard to say. Arakagor is really, really cool. I really like Samir because he gives you that classic wizard look.
That's that's my favorite.
And I feel like he's underrated.
Yes. I when I first saw it, I was like, I don't get it. Like, why? What's up? I don't get it. But in hand, like, I'm like, this is my favorite. He is my favorite. Just because he's just so understated,
Yeah.
Like, just a cool. This horse is awesome. He's very stiff, so I'm not gonna be doing any kind of crazy, but like that sculpt, I can't wait to get the skeleton horse.
Well, I'm watching you hold him right now, and like I'm just like, who is making stuff that is this cool right now?
Nobody.
You know what I mean? Nobody's making stuff this cool.
He's got like the armor. Their horses are great though too.
They are.
I've seen other toy lines use their horses, just because they're the best horses on the market, I think.
Yeah, I think if you don't own any mythics and you're trying to figure out what's one thing you should get, like, and you're not even sure you're going to buy more mythics, get a horse because that'll just work with all of your stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There goes my Arazak.
Yeah, I only bought one Arazak, and the other ones I bought extras of, but Arazak was the only one I only bought one of, and I couldn't find him, so I will pick him. I will find him in my garage at some point.
He is pretty cool. Yeah, it's really crazy that it took me so long to open Poxus. I'm glad though that I got my buddy Greg here.
That was a great idea, dude.
In the same boat.
Great idea. And
that looks good, dude.
Yeah, I forgot, and you reminded me. I'm like, dude,
we got to open these.
Great idea, man. Let's open some toys.
I think I cannot. I don't think I can articulate Arazak at all.
Don't push
like his shoulders move, but I'm like, ooh, I don't know about those elbows.
Yeah,
and his knees are pretty stiff. Yeah.
I
think they've gotten better with their tolerances and stuff like that too. Like I feel like most figures now, you can more or less open out of the box. I guess it depends on where you're living in the world, and how cold it is.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly something with this wave. This wave definitely had some tolerance issues on the movement.
And I love though that they're open and they're not deceptive. You know, like if there's an issue, they'll fix it. You know, they're not. You know, you're on your own, man.
Yeah, you can like email them and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, just send it." Or we'll send you a replacement or whatever. Like they've always been pretty good about that.
Absolutely. Top-notch guys. Top-notch guys. Absolutely.
Yeah, Arzak, I'm gonna have to spend some more time loosening him up. It's cool, all the accessories he comes with.
Yeah, he comes with a lot of stuff too. Absolutely.
Oh, and kind of cool to be opening this guy like before the Dragon goes up for pre-order, because they just recently added him to the faction, to that Dragon faction.
Oh, did they? Arzak? No, I didn't.
Yeah, he's technically part of the Poxus wave or Poxus faction, but they recently changed him on Source Horseman. If you go on there, he's now a part of the 10 pillars or whatever. I'm not totally up to date on what the current name is for that. Aresius, that's what it's called, the Cult of Aresius. I think
you're better than me. Who in your group is the lore head or the that knows all the names and the
it's probably me. Unfortunately,
everyone's like, "Yeah, that blue guy. What's that blue guy?
Yeah.
The guy that's the guy with the."
It's probably me or Mike. I would say, and maybe the other guys will get offended that isn't the case. But Eric is really good about all the cosmic. He knows all the cosmic names. I don't know all the cosmic figure names, but I would say you could probably show me a picture of any Mythic Legions figure that is currently out, and I will be able to tell you the name of it. But I am pretty bad. I think that it doesn't sink in until the wave actually comes out.
Right.
Because I don't know all of the names of the figures that were revealed in Ashes of Agbendor. I probably know all of them from Rise of the Beast because that wave rocked, and so I just immediately memorized all those.
That was a great wave, dude. That wave was fantastic. Yeah. I've said it before that I was a little surprised at the size. Like I thought it was going to be another Poxus or Necronominus, like a huge 15-figure, 14-figure wave. And then when Jeremy's like, and for our last figure, and I was just like, wait, what?
Last one? Yeah.
Last one? I mean, I want him to keep coming. I want more, but I get it. Like Chris had said that the Dragon, they basically consider part of that wave, even though they're making, it separately. And I think they're trying to be more, work with us when it comes to, the amount that they're charging us, which is thoughtful. They're giving us a great deal. I think that whole wave was what, $320, $340?
Yeah, 300. I guess after tax, it was probably like 400 if you had to pay tax.
All those amazing figures for that, is crazy, so.
Yeah, I mean, with the way that prices are going on things these days, I think collectors are doing themselves a disservice if they're not asking themselves, am I getting value out of the thing that I'm buying,
right.
Because you can go to a retail store and figures are all pretty much $30 now. After tax, I would say most figures are like $30. And if you're getting a deluxe 2-pack or something like that, it's probably like $50,
Right.
Right. And then otherwise, I mean, you could be getting something like a Poxus for $50,
exactly,
or whatever.
Exactly. What are you doing? If you're not doing that, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, I think so. That's what made me a believer. You
don't really have to ask yourself. What you're buying is quality. I've never bought a Mythic and I'm like, why did I buy that for?
Right. I don't think I really, really sincerely, and call me a shill, but I really sincerely think that every figure I've gotten, I don't think I've ever questioned I shouldn't have gotten this one.
And I mean, there's figures. I'm not saying that every figure is for me. I'm like you. I don't buy every figure. If it speaks to me, if I think it's cool, then I will pick it up. If not, I'm okay. And they're okay with me not buying everything. They've said that before.
They're going to be doing fine.
Yeah, not everything is for you. You don't have to buy everything. Just buy what you like, and
Doesn't stop people from trying though.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's still people buying the all-ins and stuff, and that's great, and now we have like this community where it's like, a friend will buy an all-in and they're like, do you want this figure? Do you want that? Yeah, I'll take that, or I'll, and so it just works out that way.
Yeah. I think a lot of people get intimidated because they're like, oh my God, there's such a backlog of figures that if like, and you just need to, I think, unless you have the means and you're have a lot of space, you have to accept that you're probably not going to be a completionist on Mythic Legion.
Right. That
is okay,
That's okay. Yeah, that's something I wanted to start asking my guests, is what advice you would give to someone that is new to Mythics. And
yeah. I would just buy the stuff that's coming out. I would buy the stuff that's out right now. Like, honestly, go forward with it, because there is cooler stuff that has come out for sure, and you're going to see figures, like you'll see things that you're like, oh my God, the Hera Serpent Spire figure is awesome, and it still is awesome. But then there's like Araya the Talon Bearer from this new Rise of the Beasts wave, which is a same kind of body type 2.0 figure, and she looks great. Or the new Anubis figure 2-pack that came out, like that's a dark skinned female with updated articulation and all this updated stuff. Like each wave, they're making it better and better and better. So like, I really don't, and I say this a lot, but I really don't think there's a better time to be like getting into this line,
I agree,
because it's only getting better,
Yeah, because I'm like, if you came in at a certain time, like I kind of was in between waves. I think Alethea hadn't dropped yet, and I think there was not a lot out there at the moment, so I was kind of looking backward at stuff. But then waves started to, things started to come, and then Cosmic, and I liked Cosmic at first, and then I'm like, doesn't really fit. I don't have a lot of room. My room is tiny, so I'm like, I need to be specific. I love Cosmic stuff, but it's like, me too. I don't have the room, so I'm gonna I gave away and sold. I'm like you. I've only got 1 or 2 figures left, maybe 2 customs, but they're great.
Cosmic, I want to come back and get more of Cosmic, but it's like you got to make those personal choices sometimes.
Got to make those tough choices for sure.
Yeah, like the for instance, we've been looking at the same knights for years. Like I love them. Like here's a gold knight right here, right? Yeah. And this is the version 2 or the re-release gold knight that came in the reinforcements wave. And he's a great figure, but his articulation isn't as great as the new knights are.
Right.
So like if you're a new collector right now, don't worry about getting this guy. Like, yeah, it's cool that there's a gold knight, but realistically, there's going to be another gold knight that's going to come down the road.
Right.
And like the new articulation on the armory knights is like crazy, or the Valiant Knight. It's crazy.
New figures. Like, I mean, you held up that Frankenstein's creature. Like that is buttery smooth. That thing moves like that. I think that was my figure of the year.
This was my figure of the year too. Last year.
An incredible. Like I that's one of those figures where I'm at work and I'm thinking about that figure.
Yeah.
It's like
it's all new.
So good.
Everything is new on it. It's just it's amazing.
So good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Well,
it's time to be new to Mythics.
A ton of your time. I appreciate you, and I would love for you to come back sometime.
Absolutely, Greg. Just let me know.
Time. Yeah, thank you so much, man. Thank you guys for hanging out with us for an hour and a half. I had a great time. Thank you for opening figs with me. That was fun, dude. I've never done that on the show, so thank you for doing that. Cool. That was the first time. So pick up some Poxus.
Special.
Necronominus is almost at our doorstep, so it's a good time to jump into that and start looking for those figures. But thank you again, Wyatt. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Greg. And if you haven't yet, check out the Mythic Enablers podcast.
Yes.
You might like it, you might not, but you can check it out.
They'll like it. It's a great show. Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate you. I'll talk to you soon.
Have a good one, everybody. Bye.
Remember, friends, to always have fun, be curious, share, and enjoy what this line has to offer. Come for the toys, but stay for the friends. Good night, and thank you very much.